Hello and welcome to India Today. I'm sitting here with the man of the moment, Sriram Raghavan. I have watched Merry Christmas not once but twice. For those who are going to watch this chat and conversation, a big disclaimer. Watch this after you watch the film. And those who have watched the film, for them, this conversation might just be a delight. Sriram, welcome to India Today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Tushar, for me.
I want to ask you, is there a Sriram Raghavan ritual on the day of release? What does the day look like for you?
Well, what we do normally, or what I did right from my first film is, we get a letter from the producer and go to different halls and check out. Basically, we go there to do a tech check, whether the sound levels are being played, the sound is being played in the right level, and so on. Then, of course, look at the audience. I don't sort of go and ask them anything. I mean, I try to be as invisible as I can. And we check out, we do a tour of various cinemas right from the suburbs to right up to, this time, Regal, because our film was shot in Regal also. Right. So we went up to there.
Do you remember the feeling of perhaps, if not walking into a theatre, but your first ever release on the big screen on the 70mm, and then getting that adrenaline rush of, I don't know how people are going to respond to this and react to this. Do you remember that? I mean, a director, even after 10, 12, 11 films old, whatever you might say, does that feeling still come?
I think so. I think for me, I remember the first time I saw Ikkis with that was my first film, and it's completing 20 years, by the way.
Yes.
Anyway, so the first time it was being shown to a lot of people in famous Mahalakshmi. There's a kind of a preview theatre there, and I didn't want to go there because I was quite terrified to go and sit there and watch it with those people. But I was with the projectionist. I was in the in the projection booth. That was of course shot on film. And I used to look, you can't really see much of the crowd from the projection because you're going to see their backs anyway. But the interval point, the projectionist said something like, Abhi ye pehla gaya, something like that, where Urmila smashes kills a rat with her plate, ye pehla gaya. Now she's going to get on a revenge spree kind of thing. That was good fun. Then of course I met people. Then of course I've watched my films in the hall also. And it's great to watch it when there is a sort of a largish crowd and you're sitting sort of quietly somewhere, and great to get the reactions. And it's amazing how whatever works with one set of audiences is like working everywhere. That same place they'll laugh, same place they'll sort of get shocked and all that. And while because we have seen the movie about 100 times in the last few days before the release.
Right.
So it becomes like, we are sort of in a sense into it, but also kind of we have lost some sort of objectivity. We don't know what is going to work and all that. So yeah, it is a thrilling process.
You know what's also interesting is if I open your IMDb page or if we go through a filmography, irrespective of whatever the trend for that year or for that decade might have been, you sort of keep doing, or you've kept doing what you think is the right thing to do, or whatever you've believed in. There's been the action of resurgence of sequels, the year of action films, the year of remakes, and this whole conversation about South films. But Sriram Raghavan's association with what he loves doing hasn't changed. How does one sort of operate in that bubble to keep that sanctity of one's to sort of keep that integrity alive, and also be almost, how do you say, like divinely attached to what you're doing? Do you sort of work in that space, because your work seems to be like that?
I mean, see, I also watch all those films you're talking about, and it's just that, I mean, I'm not really, a part of that exact, that I'm not trying to follow trends and keep it, keeping the crowd and the box office in mind. For me, the important, vital thing is to get a story which I like. Then I spend a lot of time working on the story with collaborators, and then we start. So, I mean, the year I am making a movie, actually, I watch very few films because I don't have the time to do that. And yeah, I mean, I'm working in a certain specified specific genre within which there is a lot of variety. So I think there's a lot more to explore in that genre.
And then that leads me to Merry Christmas, because I walked into a theatre thinking there'll be a potboiler, a hardcore thriller, the posters, the matchboxes you sent us, all of that trivia that you got us excited with, those Regal tickets, right, which I've kept still. It's pure nostalgia, it's pure memory, and that's what most of your films are. But I feel Merry Christmas is a legit, full, all throttle, no holds barred. You're having fun. It just felt like you were a kid in a candy store with every scene, with every frame, with every line. And it's a love story, mind you not. My takeaway from the film, like a lot of people have said, is it is a closeted love story. I think a colleague of mine just mentioned. When you were writing that, did you want the audience to discover this part, or you wanted to sort of have it like open-ended, you take away what you want?
I mean, the fact that it's a love story in the garb of a thriller, the fact that it's a love story was probably the biggest twist in the film, because my thing was I was very clear. after Andhadhun, I didn't want to do something which follows the exact same template, which is like a twist every 5 minutes kind of a thing. So Andhadhun, I remember my DOP Mohanan, he heard the script and he said, this is like a twist festival, there's nothing. And we even at some point decided we'll call it Aao Twist Kare. That was one of the working titles of that film. So here I wanted to do something else. And I had this story, Merry Christmas, the original story it's a French novella. So I had that story for a few years and I was like, okay, I love the story. Even though it's a story set in the 60s and doesn't have it's not a real story. These things don't happen in real life. So it is a movie. It's almost like made for a cinema. If you're reading the book, it's like you're imagining the movie in your head. So I wanted to tackle something like that, and the good part is it's so different from Andhadhun that I will get another adventure, for myself while making the film.
Yes, and just the fact that when you see Katrina and Vijay Sethupathi on the poster, or when we heard these names they're going to be in the same frame in the same film, or even when you think of Saif and Urmila back in the day, right? There needs to be some sort of a conviction to sort of get these people in the same frame and to know that what they're going to bring is going to be something out of the box. Because one is there's a shock value that, oh, this is a very oddball pairing. Now, what are they going to do is what, which also worked in the film for me. How did that come about? Just getting these two people on board. They're both superstars in their own right.
Right. So what happened here is like I had the story for a while and I've narrated to a couple of people also, but they were all doing different things. I also began Andhadhun even though I had this story because Andhadhun was something I was near ready with. That time it was just a story. I mean, when you have it's a source material, then you can narrate the source material. So a lot of people knew about that story, though I had not cast formally or even decided I'm going to make it. Then after Andhadhun, what happened is I said, okay, let me do that. And I remember Katrina had called me about a few months before Andhadhun released, just to say that she wants to do something in the zone I'm working on. And I said, okay, I mean, if she's interested, she's hungry, then let me think. So I politely told her, yeah, sure, if something comes up, I'll come back, kind of a thing. Then when this story, I decided I'm going to do it. So she was actually the first person, and I thought of her, okay, she might just suit it so well. And I gave her the thing to read. She loved it, and so she was on. But I was very clear that it has to be a combination that works. It cannot be, I mean, I didn't want it to be people who have done sort of films together. Right. I just wanted it to be completely unknown, unique, oddball, whatever the word is casting. And again, by chance, almost a year later or 8 months later, I bumped into Vijay Sethupathi, and then we were at a film festival in Melbourne, and he was getting an award for Super Deluxe, and Tabu was getting an award for Andhadhun. So we started chatting, and I just thought, and I've seen many of his films, many of his Tamil films, and some of the, of course, Super Deluxe, that time was the last film he had done, and of course, Vikram Vedha and all I had seen. So I asked him casually, like, do you speak Hindi? And he said, "Yeah, 3 saal Dubai mein reh chuka hu." So then I went back and told my team, okay, what do you think of this cast? And they all sort of, their eyes lit up, like, what an odd combination. So this curiosity and this thing was actually what sort of told me, okay, it's a good idea, just let's do it like that.
Are there actors who improvised? Do they also like improvising, adding a few lines? Where are there some actors who are very like, that's what written on paper and I'll just say that. And then there are some who will say a line or two, which is off the cuff.
I mean, initially, I always leave it open. I mean, I give the actors as much freedom as they want, and they can improvise, they can, I mean, as long as they are, I mean, I've got some sort of a blueprint in mind, as long as that blueprint is followed.
Like the dance bit that Vijay does.
Right.
Was that a bit like him just having fun?
I mean, of course, that was meant to be a sort of she puts the record player on and she starts dancing because she's like, in that mood. And she like invites him, he says, no, I can't. And then at some point he also joins in. And the whole idea for me was like, when I said, let's shoot the whole thing at a go without like, choreographed cuts and so on, and normally that's what we do with a song, whereas here I just wanted it to be like almost like a scene. It's not a song, it's a scene. So we did take some close-ups and all because my editor insisted you better have, otherwise you might want to, you'll, pachtaoge baad mein kind of a thing. But so we did cuts also, but in the edit when I saw both the versions, one with cuts and one without, I said let's go with the original thought itself. So it looks like a scene, it's not like a song,
So it feels organic, it just feels to pass like it's framed in there. And then the whole Shakti Samanta tribute in the beginning, you're sort of letting us know that I'm gearing you up, I'm almost simmering this to take you to that. And then through the film, these Easter eggs that pop up and these references, whether it's a song, whether it's a name, whether it's a space, so many of them. You really seem to be influenced by his filmmaking and
Shakti, yeah, of course. I mean, actually, when I was a kid, I mean, these were the films that we used to watch, and parents also take us for. I mean, I've seen Aradhna and Kati Patang and Amar Prem all on the big screen, and also I'm a big fan of his earlier, the crime films that he had made, So Shakti Samanta has made so many variety of films. He's been there for so long. And somehow, even though everybody every day must be listening to one or two songs of his movies for sure, whether you're in the car or the radio, whatever, but nobody really, I mean, they are forgotten sort of, Yeah. So I just thought, okay, I wanted to thank him actually, and then Kati Patang is one of my favorite movies, and so I wanted that, the scream in the beginning and so on. So that's just, having fun with the.
Yeah.
Just having fun.
One takeaway that has also been from the film is that the first half is almost like you're cooking the dish, but you're taking your own time to cook it. The pace, what the characters are playing with each other, lines that they're saying, or where you're taking the story. You're not in any rush. There's nobody who's in a rush to do anything. In fact, you're almost overplaying a lot of these conversations also. And then, was that almost like a lead-in, because you knew that your second half and almost towards the climax is that cherry on the cake. You want to, if you have to relish that, then you have to.
Right, yeah. So it's, slow cooking is one of the things that have come up now in the last few years. So it makes the dish tastier. So what happened is, for me, story-wise, she's called him home for a drink, and she may or may not have an agenda with him. We don't, as a viewer, I don't know that. So, if I do it in cuts, it sort of becomes like, okay, did they really spend time? But I wanted it almost like real time. If she has called him in at 9 o'clock and at 9:20 they get out, what were they doing for 20 minutes? I can, of course, compress time on screen and shoot the whole thing in 3 minutes and do that. But I said, what if we actually keep it real time? So it's like they are there for, in fact, the scene in the house is almost 20 minutes. And I'm a big fan of that Yash Chopra movie Ittifaq, which had a similar scene. So I went and called my team. I said, look at this scene. See how it's just playing out. There's a corpse outside. This guy is a lunatic with a gun in his hand, and she is a terrified housewife, and still they are able to strike a conversation. So that gave me the sort of the impetus to do it. Go ahead and do it like that. That's not a complaint in any way, but we sort of, when we leave the hall, we know that, okay, this is what we had to almost enjoy that process to then relish the climax. I remember texting Katrina after watching the film and telling her that, this performance is obviously, is for her, is going to change the films that people offer her and what the audience now sees her do. And she said that it's completely the director's vision, it is in that way. In a lot of way to also see this character in her, because she's a superstar. She's given like 300, 400 crore films, and she's done blockbusters. When you walk into a theater, you see Katrina Kaif on a poster. Do you also feel that perhaps the A-listers, or not the A-listers, I don't like to use these words, but like the big commercial mega stars, when they want to sort of break that box of just being bona fide box office superstars, are they hesitant to do it, or do you think the industry is tailor-made in such a way that these chances are very rare and often to come by? I feel, with her at least I knew that, we all knew this is not going to be that, it's not an extravaganza, it's not a big action movie and so on. It's an intimate story, and how do I say it? I just feel that, she's a big star, so people are going to come and see her, everybody knows her. And I thought this was a very meaty role, and she's hungry to do it. So it's like, and same with Vijay. He's also a big star in the South, and just that this combination is oddball. And it is still a sort of intimate story. That doesn't change. So, I don't know. I didn't think so much about the stardom and all that. I just wanted, okay, once she comes on, I said, she is Maria and he's Albert.
And when we watched Vijay in Jawan, that was a delight, right? We wanted more of him on the screen. We watch him in Merry Christmas, we feel like, okay, we got that due that we sort of missed in Jawan, because just that poker straight face of his, or even the look, a lot of his acting is through his emotions, his body language. How is he on set? Is he completely a director's delight?
Well, that he is for sure. And actually, this was supposed to be his first first Hindi film actually, because we got an interruption. So we got. So it was supposed to be his first Hindi film, but then Farzi came out, and Farzi began shooting after we started, after our shoot was done almost. But they had, of course, Farzi and Jawan. So I was like, oh, I wish I was the first. But at the same time, it helped us a lot because he became familiar with a lot of people. After Jawan, I was very happy because now everybody knows him.
Yeah.
And Jawan's role was so, I mean, different from this. So I said, okay, people like him and people like him. So I thought, okay, this is going to work in our favor. And people do like him in our movie also.
Absolutely. My last question to you is, you know, it also took us back on those memory lanes because we saw Bombay, which was formerly, I mean, Mumbai, which was formerly known as Bombay. Then we saw Regal, we saw the city landscape, those lights, everything, right? If you had to take one thing from the 80s and bring it today, that you think is perhaps missing, in just maybe the writing, the fabric of filmmaking, the culture, the discipline, anything that you miss, or just that larger than life music. What's the one thing you would like to time travel and get and use it?
From a movie point of view, or from I mean, like you said, the last thing you said was music. I just find that the music of that time is so rich that we have used a couple of songs, and it just suddenly elevates that moment. So I don't know. I feel now that we are shooting on digital, everything is sort of done separately. At that time, all this background music and the songs were done live. So there was so much sort of, that's why it's still sort of, in our minds and all that. It's like, whereas today, unfortunately, when a song of mine is like, okay, somebody has come and done their part and gone, somebody else has come and done their part. Yeah. But what I would love is to make a movie in which, I mean, it's like, the songs are recorded like how it used to be, where you get the orchestra and you have the mics and it's like one take, and if you go wrong, you start it again and do it again.
Wow, because I remember when Jab Andhera Hota Hai started, everybody, people who heard the remixes, people who know the original, everybody was tapping their feet and we were like, wow, this is what we need as movie goers. It just hits you in your belly when you hear that tune. I have to ask you one last question about Ikkis because you're getting into that now. Right. Agastya is really excited about it, and he recently spoke that somebody from the army told him that you better not mess this up and pulled him up for that. What sort of space is that going to be like without telling us too much?
No, I can tell you little bit about Ikkis because it's a story in public domain. So it's about this boy Arun Khetarpal who did something extremely valorous in the 71 war, and it was just he was the youngest Paramveer Chakra, and his birthday, he became 21 in October and he was martyred in December. So 2 months barely since he became an officer and so on. And there's something about that story, his relationship with his dad and all that, which just touched me, And I was actually in Dinu's office, Dinesh Vijan, who is the producer, for some other script discussion, which was supposed to be Badlapur 2, which was a story we were developing and so on. And somebody else was narrating this story, and I was just sitting there and listening to it since I was in the room. Later that person left and I asked, who's doing this? And he said, no, so far nobody is doing it, we just have the story. Then he asked me, like, do you want to do it? I said, give me 10 minutes, I'll just go out and think and come back, So I took a thinking break, which means I had a smoke or something like that, and I just thought, okay, I said, let me plunge into this and see what happens. So that's how. Then I initially had cast Varun for it. Then Varun, after the pandemic, we sat and chatted, and I said, and he also understood, it's called Ikkis. It's about it needs innocence on the face. It needs a fresh actor. So then Varun then we got Agastya. Agastya, we had actually signed him before he had even started shooting for Archies. So I just found him extremely, what do you say? I mean, when I see a person, I said, this is the boy. That was the feeling I got, And he has that vulnerability, innocence, and the toughness of the character.
Absolutely. I think the title itself is exciting, but right now I want to have people go to theatres, watch Merry Christmas. You will enjoy this conversation all the more after you watch the film if you haven't. And if you have watched the film, then I'm guessing this you have to share on your social space. Thank you so much, Sriram, for this conversation.
Thank you so much. Can I just add, if you're watching it, please watch it from the very beginning. Even though it's a slow burner, those beginning things are important, Otherwise, I went to the halls, the first day. The thing that disheartens you is movie has begun, people are coming in with their samosas and looking for their seats and all. I mean, I wish I could start it again, kind of a thing.
No, I think with the Sriram Raghavan film, there is no samosas. There is that you want to dash to your chair because you don't know what you might miss, right?
Yeah, this one, I mean, you can enjoy, but please see it from the beginning.
Okay, so on that note, make sure you have your samosas when you have to have them and go watch the film from the very first scene.